There's a reason you found this message. There's a reason your heart feels heavy one moment and strangely clear the next. There's a reason your intuition has been whispering louder, calling you towards something you can't yet name, but can already feel. The truth is simple. If you're hearing this, you've already awakened. Awakening doesn't begin with a sign in the sky. It begins with a shift inside your chest, a quiet recognition, a subtle pressure, a moment where something inside you says, without words, I'm not who I was yesterday. And that's where you are right now. Your soul has stepped forward. You might not see it on the outside yet. Your life may look the same. Your days may still carry the same routines. But inside, everything has changed. Your perception is sharper. Your empathy is deeper. Your emotions carry a weight they didn't have before. And your heart knows something your mind hasn't fully caught up to. You're waking up to your own truth. There's a moment in every twin flame journey when the feminine begins to feel the world differently. Signs become louder. Silences become meaningful. Dreams become messages. Your inner world grows so alive that the outer world no longer satisfies the way it used to. You feel the pull towards something higher. And that is awakening. It isn't dramatic. It isn't loud. Awakening begins softly, with a feeling that the path you walked until now no longer fits who you're becoming. It's the moment your soul refuses to shrink back into the version of yourself you outgrew. It's the moment you stop searching outside and begin hearing the voice within. You might feel more emotional lately, not because you're breaking, but because you're clearing. Your heart is making space for a new frequency, a frequency you once carried naturally before life taught you to forget. Now your body is remembering, your spirit is remembering, your soul is remembering. If you've been sensing your divine masculine more lately, more dreams, more telepathy, more emotional echoes, it's because his awakening is being triggered by yours. Feminine awakening always comes first, because your energy is the light that guides both of you out of the dark. You're not imagining the shift in him. He feels it. He feels you. He feels the difference in your vibration. He feels the softening of your fear and the rising of your strength. He doesn't have words for it, but he feels it in his chest, in his restlessness, in the sudden memories of you that come out of nowhere. Your awakening activates his. And that's why this moment is so important. You might sense a quiet detachment in yourself, not coldness, not distance, but a deeper trust. A trust that doesn't come from logic, but from your soul whispering, "This path is real. Just keep going." Awakening always brings this shift. You stop chasing and start attracting. You stop questioning and start knowing. You stop holding on and start allowing. You stop living from fear and start living from alignment. Your entire inner world recalibrates. Your intuition rises. Your emotional clarity sharpens. Your heart becomes your compass again. And little by little, you realize you're no longer the version of you that doubted everything. You're becoming the version that trusts the process, trusts the connection, trusts yourself. Your awakening is the turning point. It's the moment the universe begins to rearrange the path ahead of you. It's the moment your soul remembers its mission. It's the moment the journey stops hurting the way it did before. Because awakening isn't the beginning of your suffering. It's the beginning of your liberation. And if these words feel like they're speaking directly to your chest, if something inside you feels exposed, seen, understood, if your heart is beating just a little faster right now, it's because you've already awakened. Your soul is responding. Your path has begun. Before you understood anything, before you had words for what you felt, before you even realized your life was shifting, your soul had already begun its awakening. There is always a moment, quiet, subtle, almost invisible, when something inside the divine feminine turns a corner. A moment when her energy rises before her mind even notices the change. And that moment has already happened for you. Your awakening didn't start when you heard these words. It didn't start when you began searching for answers, or when you first learned about twin flames. It began long before that, in a place deeper than memory, deeper than emotion, deeper than thought. It began the moment your soul stopped tolerating the version of yourself that was living in survival, in fear, in confusion, and whispered, "It's time." You may not have understood it then, but something inside you recognized it. You feel it now in the way you see the world differently. Things that once triggered you no longer hold the same power. Situations that once caused anxiety now bring clarity. You sense yourself pulling away from old patterns and stepping into a new emotional space, even if you can't explain why. This is what awakening feels like from the inside. It's not dramatic, it's not sudden. It's a soft unfolding, a quiet expansion, a rising that comes from your spirit, not your mind. You begin to notice the subtle shifts first. Your intuition speaks louder. Your emotional responses become wiser. Your inner guidance becomes steadier. You start trusting yourself in ways you never did before. And without realizing it, you begin living from alignment instead of fear. There's a reason the divine feminine awakens first. Your energy is the gateway, the anchor, the stabilizer of the connection. Your awakening is what prepares the entire structure of the journey. It is what calls the masculine forward, even when he doesn't understand why he feels pulled toward you, why he feels restless, why he feels you in every quiet moment. Your awakening begins the moment you stop running from your truth. You start seeing signs everywhere, not because the universe suddenly began sending them, but because you finally rose to the frequency where those signs have always lived. Repeating numbers, vivid dreams, emotional echoes, flashes of intuition that feel too accurate to ignore. This isn't coincidence. This is alignment. This is your soul remembering the path you agreed to walk long before you came into this life. The awakening also brings a shift in how you feel the masculine. You don't cling to him. You don't chase the connection. You don't fear the silence. Instead, you feel him with clarity, not with desperation. You sense his emotions rising. You sense his energy moving. You sense his soul stirring in response to yours. Because when the feminine awakens, the masculine feels the ripple. He may not speak it. He may not understand it. He may not surrender to it yet, but he feels the shift. Your awakening is the signal that shakes him awake, and this marks the beginning of a new chapter in your journey, one where the chaos starts to dissolve, the confusion begins to lift, and the deeper truth of the connection rises to the surface. You are awakening not to find answers, but to remember them, not to fix the connection, but to rise into the version of yourself that naturally attracts alignment, not to chase love, but to embody it so deeply that love has no choice but to move in your direction. Your awakening has already begun. It began the moment you started hearing your soul louder than your fear. It began the moment you stopped shrinking. It began the moment you realized you were never alone on this journey. You were only asleep to your own power. And now, as this shift unfolds, nothing in your life will ever feel the same again. You've crossed a threshold that cannot be undone. This is the beginning of your return to yourself, and through that return, the entire path forward will begin to align. You are awake now, and everything changes from here. As you move deeper into your awakening, you begin to notice things you didn't see before, not because they are new, but because you are finally rising to the vibration where they can reach you. Your soul is remembering, and remembrance always reveals itself through subtle but undeniable signs. You may feel these signs in your body first. A sudden warmth in the chest that comes out of nowhere. A pressure in the heart space that feels like something trying to expand. Moments where you inhale deeply without meaning to, as if your body is opening itself to light. These sensations are not random. They are your energy adjusting, stretching, awakening. Your soul remembers the truth long before your mind does. You might notice that your intuition has become sharper, almost startling. You sense things before they happen. You feel emotions that don't belong to you. You know when something is about to shift. It's not guessing, it's remembering. Your soul is guiding you the same way it did in lifetimes before this one, pulling knowledge from places your mind has never visited. You begin to feel a quiet familiarity with certain thoughts, feelings, and synchronicities. A number appears repeatedly. A song follows you everywhere. A dream feels too vivid, too intentional, as if someone is trying to speak with you through symbols. You wake up with messages you didn't consciously ask for. Your heart reacts before your brain can analyze. This is your soul saying, "I know this path. Just listen." You may also feel a strange sense of distance from your old self, not in a painful way, in a peaceful one. Things that once triggered you no longer penetrate as deeply. Situations that once drained your energy now feel irrelevant. People who once held power over your emotions suddenly feel distant energetically. You are pulling your spirit back from places it no longer belongs. Your soul is reclaiming you. Another sign is the unexpected emotional release. Tears that come without a specific reason. Waves of sadness that disappear as quickly as they arrive. Moments of overwhelming gratitude that fill your chest out of nowhere. This isn't instability, it's purification. Your energy is clearing space for a higher frequency. Awakening always brings emotional release because the old version of you cannot rise with you. You may notice that your sensitivity increases, but not in a way that weakens you. You become more aware of the energies around you. You feel when someone is not aligned with you. You sense the truth behind words. Your empathy becomes a superpower instead of a burden. You don't absorb, you perceive. Your soul is reconnecting with its original blueprint. One of the clearest signs is the shift in how you feel your twin flame. You sense him more strongly, not through anxiety, but through intuition. His emotions echo within you. His restlessness brushes against your aura. His awakening whispers through your dreams. You can feel when he's thinking about you, when he's processing something, when his heart is stirring. This is the soul bond becoming louder as your frequency rises. You may feel him reaching for you energetically, even if the physical world shows silence. You may feel him softening, approaching, remembering. the connection becomes more fluid, more alive, more immediate, not through longing, through recognition. Your soul remembers him because it has known him across lifetimes. As your awakening unfolds, you may also sense a strange mix of calm and anticipation. Calm because you are aligning, anticipation because your soul knows something is coming. This feeling is not fear, it's preparation. You're stepping into a timeline your spirit has been guiding you toward for a long time. And when your soul remembers, everything in your life begins to shift. Your priorities change. Your emotional boundaries strengthen. Your energy becomes sacred. You start choosing differently, loving differently, seeing differently. This is what happens when awakening is real. You stop trying to fit into the world you were born into and begin stepping into the world your soul came here to create. Every sign you're feeling, every tear, every dream, every pulse of intuition is your soul whispering, "You've done this before. Trust yourself." You are remembering, and this remembrance is the foundation of everything that comes next. What awakening feels like for the feminine? Awakening feels different for the divine feminine than it does for anyone else. It doesn't arrive as a sudden explosion or a dramatic revelation. It comes as a quiet unraveling, a soft remembering, a deep emotional shift that begins long before you consciously notice it. And once it begins, nothing inside you remains the same. Awakening feels like your heart is stretching, not breaking, stretching, as if it's making space for a truth you once carried naturally, but forgot how to hold. You feel emotions riding that you thought you had already dealt with, not to punish you, but to free you from the parts of yourself that you outgrew. It feels like waves. One day your energy feels light and expansive, and the next day it feels heavy and inward. This doesn't mean you're going backward. It means your soul is recalibrating. It is releasing what cannot rise with you. Awakening always begins with purification. You start to feel detached from things that once consumed you, not in a cold way, but in a peaceful way. Situations, people, and fears lose their emotional grip. You stop giving energy to what drains you. You stop trying to control what isn't yours to carry. You stop chasing clarity in places that cannot give it. The feminine awakens through surrender. You begin to trust your intuition without questioning it 100 times. You begin to feel truth rather than think truth. You begin to listen more to your inner voice than to external noise. Your inner world becomes richer, deeper, fuller, and slowly you realize you've stopped living from fear and started living from knowing. Awakening also feels like a shift in your sensitivity. You don't become weaker, you become more attuned. You feel the energy of a room before you walk into it. You sense the emotions behind someone's words. You notice subtleties that others overlook. This sensitivity is not a burden. It's your spiritual intelligence rising. You may find yourself needing more silence, more space, more rest, more distance from people who operate in fear or superficiality. Not because you don't care, but because your energy is reorganizing into something more sacred. You are learning how to protect what your soul has fought to recover. Awakening feels like remembering who you were before life dimmed your inner light. There is also a deep emotional shift with your twin flame. The old version of the connection, the one filled with anxiety, attachment, or longing, begins to dissolve. You stop craving reassurance. You stop obsessing over signs. You stop needing the masculine to validate your worth. Your heart becomes steady, not because he returned, but because you returned to yourself. You start feeling him from a place of truth instead of a place of fear. You sense his emotions without letting them dictate your own. You feel his presence without losing your grounding. You recognize his awakening without trying to control the pace of it. This is the spiritual maturity of the feminine. Awakening feels like clarity rising from within you, a clarity that whispers, I know who I am. I know what this connection is, and I don't need to fight for what is spiritually mine. It feels like coming home, not to him, but to yourself. Your energy becomes softer and stronger at the same time. You become magnetic without trying. Your aura shifts into a frequency that the masculine feels even if he doesn't understand why. Your very presence begins to awaken him, pull him, stir him. Awakening feels like stepping back into your role in the connection, not the role of chasing, waiting, or hurting, but the role of holding frequency, embodying truth, and leading energetically without force. It feels like remembering that your soul has never been asleep, only your mind was. And now that your heart and your spirit are waking up together, everything inside you begins to align. You feel lighter, you feel stronger, you feel more you. This is what the awakening of the divine feminine feels like. A soft revolution within the soul, a rising that asks for nothing, yet changes everything. While your awakening rises like a soft inner expansion, the awakening of the divine masculine begins in a completely different way. It doesn't start with clarity. It doesn't start with peace. It starts with pressure. His activation is silent, internal, and often confusing for him. He feels the shift long before he understands it. His heart begins to stir before his mind is ready to accept anything. And because he is not used to navigating emotion the way you are, his awakening feels like a storm inside a place he thought was protected. The masculine awakens through disruption. He begins to feel restless for no obvious reason. His routine no longer satisfies him the way it used to. Things that once distracted him now feel empty. Situations he tolerated for years suddenly drain him. He feels an internal pull towards something he can't name, and that pull is you. He doesn't recognize this as awakening. He experiences it as discomfort, as if something inside him is pushing him to pay attention to feelings he's ignored, avoided, or buried beneath layers of logic and self-protection. The masculine doesn't awaken through peace. He awakens through the collapse of his emotional defense systems. He begins to feel emotions resurfacing that he thought he had outgrown. Memories of you appear out of nowhere. Your voice, your energy, your presence. Moments you shared return with intensity, even if the two of you haven't spoken for months or even years. Your connection becomes louder inside him at the exact moment you stop forcing it. This is not coincidence. It is spiritual mechanics. When the divine feminine rises into emotional alignment, the masculine feels it in his core. Your energy becomes clearer, steadier, more magnetic, and he feels the shift like a pressure on his heart. He may not know why, but he senses that something between you is changing. His soul remembers you before his mind does. He feels an unexplained pull toward your energy, a desire to understand himself, a sudden need for solitude, a longing he cannot define. He begins searching for something without knowing what he's searching for. This is the silent activation. He may withdraw, he may become quiet, he may seem distant from the world around him. But this isn't rejection, it's awakening. He is stepping back because his soul needs space to rearrange things inside him. Awakening forces the masculine to confront emotions he never learned how to process. And for someone who built his entire identity on control and logic, this is a profound and destabilizing experience. He feels vulnerable. He feels exposed. He feels like the walls he spent years building are no longer protecting him. But this vulnerability is the doorway to his growth. As he awakens, he becomes more aware of his own truth. He feels the weight of denying his feelings. He feels the consequences of his avoidance. He realizes that running from the connection doesn't silence it, it amplifies it. He begins to see that the bond he shares with you isn't something he can replace or forget. The masculine awakens through the realization that the life he built without listening to his soul no longer fits him, and you play a central role in this transformation, not through effort, not through chasing, not through longing, but through your own awakening. Your shift sends an energetic signal that hits him directly in the heart. It destabilizes him because it awakens him. Your rising disrupts his illusions. Your healing challenges his avoidance. Your alignment becomes his mirror. He feels your growth even if you are silent. He feels your expansion even if you distance yourself. He feels your energy becoming lighter, stronger, more sovereign, and it pushes him into recognition. His awakening is silent, but it is powerful. It is the beginning of him remembering who he really is and who he is to you. This is the turning point where the masculine no longer runs from truth. He begins to run toward it, toward himself, toward the connection, toward the piece of his soul that has always been intertwined with yours. The silent activation is not the end. It is the beginning of a profound transformation that will reshape the entire path ahead. How awakening reshapes the connection. When one soul awakens in a twin flame connection, the entire structure of the bond begins to shift. Nothing stays the same, because awakening changes the energy at the foundation. And as the divine feminine rises, the connection begins to reorganize itself around the truth she now embodies. Awakening reshapes the connection first by dissolving the illusions that once controlled it. The fears, the insecurities, the anxieties, the misunderstandings, they start losing power over you. You no longer crumble under silence. You no longer question your worth because of his distance. You no longer feel the need to chase clarity outside of yourself. Your inner strength becomes the anchor of the bond. The old dynamic begins to fall apart because it cannot survive at the frequency you are rising into. Awakening also shifts the emotional balance. The feminine no longer pours from an empty place. She no longer tries to fix, rescue, or overextend. She rests. She breathes. She trusts. And this trust changes the entire direction of the journey. The connection stops running on fear and begins running on alignment. The masculine feels this shift immediately, even if he doesn't understand it. Your energy no longer grips him. It no longer pressures him. It no longer calls him from a wounded place. Instead, it calls him from truth. This draws him toward you rather than pushing him away. your awakening becomes the gravitational center of the connection. Awakening reshapes the connection by clarifying the roles. The feminine steps into spiritual leadership, not through force, not through demands, but through her vibration. Her stability becomes the light that guides the masculine out of avoidance. Her emotional clarity becomes the mirror that shows him where he still hides from himself. Her healing becomes the frequency that awakens his own. As you rise, he feels his soul being pulled forward. Awakening also changes how you feel each other. The bond becomes cleaner, the telepathy becomes stronger, the emotional mirroring becomes more accurate. You sense him without absorbing him. You feel him without losing yourself. You understand him without needing explanation. The connection becomes a conversation in energy. There's a shift in the magnetic field as well. Instead of desperation, there is resonance. Instead of longing, there is recognition. Instead of fear, there is trust. You stop chasing, and that creates space for him to start approaching. This change can feel strange at first. You might feel more detached, more grounded, more centered. But this is not distance. This is alignment. This is what the connection was always meant to feel like when both souls rise. Awakening also reshapes the timeline of the journey. You begin to feel that what once seemed delayed is simply being rearranged. You understand that separation isn't punishment, it's preparation. You realize that the pauses, the cycles, the silence all served a purpose you couldn't see before. And that purpose becomes clearer as your consciousness expands. The connection becomes less about the physical and more about the energetic truth that binds you. You start to see the bigger picture. You start to understand your role in his awakening. You start to feel the deeper rhythm behind the external circumstances. Awakening reveals the connection as it truly is, not a romance, but a spiritual alignment. As this happens, you may also feel the masculine shifting. He becomes more sensitive, more aware, more reflective. He feels the urge to change aspects of his life that no longer resonate. He starts questioning choices he once accepted without thinking. Your awakening activates a chain reaction inside him. The connection becomes a field where both souls begin moving, not perfectly, not at the same pace, but in the same direction. Awakening reshapes the connection by elevating it. It takes the bond out of the realm of fear and places it into the realm of truth. It removes the emotional noise and strengthens the spiritual signal. It brings both of you closer to the version of yourselves that the connection was designed for. You begin to feel that the journey is no longer stuck. It's unfolding, it's expanding, it's rising with you. And as your awakening deepens, so does the path forward, clearer, lighter, and more aligned with who you truly are. What the universe is preparing next. When the divine feminine awakens, the entire universe begins to move around her, not subtly, visibly, because her rise is not just personal growth. It is a spiritual signal sent into the energetic field, activating every timeline connected to her destiny, her healing, and her twin flame path. The universe never responds to longing. It responds to alignment. And now that you are stepping into that alignment, everything around you begins to reorganize. The first thing the universe prepares is clarity. You will begin to see the truth behind emotions, situations, and connections that once felt confusing. The fog that surrounded the twin flame journey starts to lift. Patterns become obvious. Cycles become understandable. You begin to feel a level of inner certainty that silence and separation can no longer shake. You are starting to see your connection from soul level, not fear level. The universe also prepares energetic openings, opportunities for healing, understanding, and union that were not accessible before. These openings show up as intuitive nudges, synchronicities, dreams, sudden realizations, and moments where your connection feels startlingly alive. The masculine feels these openings too, even if he doesn't consciously understand them. He feels the energetic pull to face himself more honestly. He feels the urge to upgrade his life, release what no longer resonates, and step toward the person he is becoming. Your awakening becomes his initiation. The universe is also preparing emotional releases. Anything that cannot rise with you will begin to surface. Old wounds, old fears, memories you thought you were done with. Not to break you, but to empty you. You are being prepared to hold more light, more truth, and more love than before. This release may feel intense at times, but it is sacred work. You are being cleared so the connection can anchor in a higher frequency. The universe also begins shifting external circumstances. Suddenly, things you tolerated become unbearable. People who drain you naturally fall away. Situations that once held you now feel too small for who you're becoming. Your life starts rearranging itself to match the vibration of your awakening. This is why things feel different. They are different. You are being positioned into the timeline where union becomes possible. At the same time, the masculine is being guided through his own internal restructuring. The universe is preparing him for emotional truth, for spiritual responsibility, for a level of connection he has never experienced before. He may feel lost, overwhelmed, introspective, or suddenly inspired, all signs that his soul is responding to your rise. The universe is preparing both of you to meet on the same frequency. As you rise into emotional clarity, he rises into emotional honesty. As you stop chasing, he begins seeking. As you return to yourself, he feels the pull to return to the connection. This is the divine equilibrium that the journey requires. The next thing the universe prepares is alignment through timing. You will begin to notice small synchronicities, times, dates, numbers, moments where everything feels perfectly placed. These are not coincidences. They are markers guiding you toward the next phase of your path. Nothing is random anymore. Every moment is preparation. The universe is also preparing spiritual reinforcement around you. Your intuition becomes stronger. Your dreams become clearer. Your energy becomes more protected. You start feeling guided, supported, watched over, because you are. Awakening activates assistance you couldn't receive before. Most importantly, the universe is preparing the bridge between you and your masculine, a bridge built not from longing, but from truth, not from fear, but from readiness, not from chasing, but from alignment. This bridge is not physical yet. It is energetic. But every shift you make brings it closer into form. The universe is preparing you for a connection that exists in higher consciousness, a connection that requires maturity, emotional stability, and spiritual self-awareness. You are stepping into that now. What comes next will not feel like the past, because you are no longer the past version of yourself. The feminine who doubted, feared, chased, or waited is dissolving. The feminine who trusts, aligns, embodies, and leads energetically is emerging. And the universe responds to the woman you are becoming, not the woman you once were. Everything ahead of you is rising. Everything ahead of you is aligned. Everything ahead of you is preparing you for the deepest chapter of this journey. As this awakening unfolds inside you, something extraordinary is happening. You are becoming the woman your soul always knew you were meant to be. This journey was never about becoming perfect. It was about becoming aligned. Aligned with your truth. Aligned with your intuition. Aligned with the love that has been guiding you long before you had words to describe it. You are not waiting for union anymore. You are preparing for it. And there is a profound difference between those two states. Waiting keeps you in longing. Preparation keeps you in power. And right now, everything in your energy field reflects readiness. You are shedding the emotional patterns that kept you anchored in fear. You are reclaiming your strength, your clarity, your emotional center. Your heart is no longer reaching outward for validation. It is rooting inward, expanding from a place of truth rather than lack. This is what the journey always intended for you. Union is not built on desire. It is built on consciousness. The path ahead of you is clearing because you are clearing. As you release the last layers of attachment, confusion, and fear, the universe begins rearranging everything to match your new vibration. Your transformation is not subtle. It is felt across the connection. The masculine senses it. Your soul senses it. The universe aligns with it. You are stepping into a version of yourself that the old timeline could never hold. Listen carefully to what your heart is doing now. It is stabilizing, it is grounding, it is preparing to love from truth, not from survival. This is why your emotional storms feel different now. They do not break you. They refine you. Every moment of silence, every wave of surrender, every shift in your energy has served this exact transformation. The feminine who enters union is not the feminine who chases or questions. She is the feminine who knows. She knows her worth. She knows her path. She knows the connection. She knows the difference between fear and intuition. She knows that love rooted in soul does not abandon itself. You are rising into that knowing now. The masculine is being called into a parallel awakening, even if his process looks different from yours. He feels your shift. He feels your power. He feels the stability you've anchored inside yourself, and it pulls him toward his own truth. Your rise creates space for him to rise. Your clarity creates a path for him to follow. Your alignment becomes the foundation for the next chapter of this journey. You are not just preparing for union, you are activating it. Union is not something that arrives from the outside. It is something that forms when both souls rise to the same frequency. And you, right now, are aligning with that frequency one breath at a time. Your awakening is not random. Your timing is not accidental. Your preparation is not unnoticed. The universe is orchestrating every step, every sign, every shift with precision. You are not behind. You are not lost. You are not disconnected. You are becoming. And the woman you are becoming is the woman who walks into union, not in desperation, but in truth, not in fear, but in embodiment, not in longing, but in alignment. This chapter of your journey marks the turning point, the moment where your inner world aligns deeply enough for the outer world to begin responding. The moment where you stop carrying the connection and begin co-creating it. The moment where your soul whispers, "I am Eddie," and the universe whispers back, "Then it is time." You are not the same woman who once hurt, feared, or doubted. You are the woman who rises. And because you have risen, the path ahead of you is clearing. The energy is shifting, the connection is strengthening, the masculine is awakening, and the universe is preparing the next phase of your journey. One built not on struggle, but on truth. You are stepping into your highest expression. And from this place, union doesn't feel far. It feels inevitable.